Welcome everybody to this Twirl Talk Tuesday. I'm Kyle Kaiser, and tonight's special guest is longtime U.S. team coordinator Paige Campbell. So first of all, I want to thank you, Paige,
Hello.
for being able to make it because you are a busy, popular person.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
I'm
inviting
just
me.
excited to have you on here. So kind of the background of it is that Paige has been the U.S. team coordinator for several years. So we're talking many editions of US teams and many trips around the world. So there's so much to this job and what it is and what it entails. And I thought it would be fun to have a talk with Paige, who's lived it, and then who's got some great stories from all of these trips. So Paige, thank you for making this work tonight.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And when you say I've lived it, I'm 51 years old right now, and I've been twirling, in the world of, the sport for 47 years. So since I was 4. And so to be able to give back to an organization, to be able to give back to the sport, to the athletes, is what I'm super, super passionate about. That I've been blessed with this position and honor to kind of work with the elite athletes and coaches on that, world championship year. So
Well, I think
thanks for
it's
having
just
me
such
tonight.
a special position because you do get to interact with people on a level that few get to do. So to be able to talk with you about that and to be able to get some of the inside scoop, and we've got several former US team members and coaches and tour director and judges on the call, and more
Absolutely.
might be joining as we're going on here. But there have been so many wonderful people that have had amazing trips around the world because of twirling. So Paige,
Awesome.
how many trips have you been? How many times have you been US team coordinator?
Okay, so they gave me like 1 year of training when the US hosted it in 2005. So that was St. Paul, Minnesota. And then 8 years I've been the tour coordinator since. And I wrote them all down. So 2006 was Rome, Italy. And that was kind of my first year ever even traveling internationally. The weather was incredibly hot, and somebody thought I looked like Sharon Stone. So that was like an amazing start to my trip and experience. But 2007 was in a little town called Hamilton, Canada, which had its own charm. And 2008 was Limerick, Ireland. And I'll talk a little more about that one later for sure. 2010 was Bergen, Norway. And then we went on to Villevon, Sous, I believe, Yvette, France. So right outside of Paris. And that was 2012. Nottingham, England was 2014. And then I went on to Helsingborg, Sweden, sweet little town in 2016, followed by 2018 when the USA hosted it again in Kissimmee, Florida. And then the 2020 was postponed. So I've done 8 full tours plus a year of training back in St. Paul.
How remarkable is that when you started lessons, when with your mom as a coach and just a little kid, it's like, oh, P.S. When you're a grown up, you're going to get to go all these places. So
Well, and I had a sister who was really at that world level and competed in the very first world championships. I personally decided to retire prior to that and not continue to work that many hours in the gym. And so to be able to still be able to give back to the sport in a more of a leadership role, as not as an athlete, is just powerful for me. I'm excited about it.
Well, I think too, the education in it though is that you may say 8 times, but it's really 16 years because of the process of what it takes to do all of this. So there's so much behind the scenes that people have no idea. So was there anything about the job when you started, Paige, that really surprised you?
Um, One was how much H2O, how much water the USA team would need when we would be not only in our own country, but in a foreign country. That was something I never had really put my mind and wrapped around. Um, and then there's just a lot to keep track of in terms of when you take on the job, you're preparing for trials. Then after trials, you're preparing the athletes for nationals. And after nationals, we're preparing to go travel internationally or here in our home, country. And there's just a lot of things to track, their health certificates, their, responsible person. We want to make sure that they've, followed the code of ethics. So they have their world team contract that we need to make sure is signed, and it's signed by their coach and their parent if they're under 18. And there's just lots of little paperwork things. And people tease me that I always have my binder. So I just picked one of mine out of my file cabinet. But I really try to keep myself as organized as possible within the process because there's so many little things. And then there's like the leotards and the sweats. And then there's like, oh, those ones don't fit. So we have to remeasure and all that kind of stuff and track. And I love doing all of it. And then on top of it, we have fundraisers like pen sales. And then we have the raffle basket at nationals. So lots of little things that make the big job kind of easy to do, but fun and hard all at the same time. So.
Well, that job description never ends, when we're writing the job description. So I think that one thing is like you're a wonderful blend of organization and fun. So sometimes you get personalities that are like, we're all about the organization and the job, and you get personalities that are all about the fun. And I think the wonderful thing about you, Paige, is that the educator in you combined with the twirler and your personality just creates this person who is like the magical blend of what it is to be organized. Because you can't, as the International Cup team coordinator, people have no idea that just the information to put in, you're ultimately responsible for that entry.
Oh yeah.
And talk about,
absolutely.
I mean, what nerve-wracking moments have you had with that? Because I've had my own fears of like forgetting someone.
Yeah, definitely turning in the entry form was a learning process for me. And I had a great support team as I was, taking on those different types of things to make sure the WBTF, had what they needed. I thought a huge thing that when you're talking right now that I didn't think about before was when we transitioned from CDs to digital only. Like, I mean, I used to have to like carry like a huge thing of like 18 CDs. And then we would like go through the rotation. And then finally we got it on an iPod. And so little things like that. It was a learning curve for me too, then to be able to do it digitally and start to use Dropbox
oh my gosh.
and all that kind
of
stuff.
So go back, Paige. So as a person who was a coach in that whole music test environment,
oh yeah,
go ahead and so Jenny's on this call. She's had eons, and so is Jen Marcus, of music tests. So tell me, take me through a Jen Marcus or a Jenny Hanna or any of the athletes that are on this call. Take me through a music test experience.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so what I really enjoyed about the rehearsal process before we would go into music tests is watching the ritual of the athlete, so I know when they were ready for their opening pose. And then there was kind of the moment that I would then let the announcer know to, start. And what I think is really great is it's their first time to really kind of give it their 110. We might have been in the arena a little bit, but they're really going all out. And for Jenny and Jennifer, there's so many times when you guys your routines were just so amazing that music test was that moment where if the sound wasn't right or you started and we wanted to change it, you could signal us and we can fix it and try to change it again at the end. And it was like a real tight schedule. So you knew I had to be ready when the next person's off and it's got to be time for me. And so I think that intensity that everyone always really just tried to take for Team USA. And I certainly enjoyed the respect that our athletes gave and sat in the front for our alternates to do their command performance. And then I loved signing my name to the envelope. Once we agreed that was the timing, the speed, and the sound, the CD would go into an envelope that then would get sealed and I would sign it on the seal until it was time to go back. So that was I'm ready for Jennifer, or I'm ready for Jenny. I just, okay, and that would be very nerve-wracking.
Well, isn't there that moment of competition that you hold your breath until the right music plays?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's worse than when I would be with my own athletes at my own, national competition or something. Absolutely. But going digital was great because I didn't have to worry about the process of CDs, but I still would go stand with the music person and say, ready, and they would tap. And usually just the Japanese in the USA country does that. So
no, the Japanese, when they're on your back, when I've been running music at the World Championship, and they're on my back, thumping.
Yeah. And I certainly think that at the 2018, I didn't have to go over there because we know our athletes well enough that we were able to organize that pretty solidly. So
It's
yeah.
just its own experience.
Yeah. And
So
in a foreign country too, with the language barrier, the costume check, and some people are more serious than others. And, that was always an intense moment too. So,
was there anything about the team coordinator job that surprised you?
ah, um, well, every year had its surprises because it just is a different group of people. Some are the same players, some are new. Anxieties are different, location is different. But honestly, I was responsible for making sure these athletes only focus on their performance. So I'm responsible for getting their bananas and their foods and their energy and, making sure we're staying in a good mood. So nothing like that. It surprised me how many bananas we always needed or how much more water we needed to make sure we were consuming. I don't think anything really surprised me because I was willing to do whatever was needed for the job. And Colleen, knowing that she's on this tonight, just warms my heart because there was so many late night hours. And each year we got more and more efficient on how we did things. And I think one of the turning points is when we actually handed the case of water to the athletes when they first just checked into the hotel. So they have their whole case in their room. Was amazing. We used to have to do like 4 bottles in the lobby and we're like in the middle of like disheveling stuff. So just efficiencies and things like that as you worked through things, and the fact that we could use email better and different ways of communicating versus always the big board down in the lobby. So
Well, I think that that's also is like a great statement on your ability to adapt because as you're saying, like, and Colleen and I went through it too, just from the International Cup years of like, you've got to develop systems that are smarter, not, harder. So
yeah.
it's like when we came up with the snack room and just how you're able to make all of that work. So go ahead, and I didn't put this on anything that I sent to you, but a big deal is the board. So
Oh,
tell me about the board.
well, absolutely. There was a couple things when I was first inherited with the USA team bag. There was decorations in there, and there's a certain set of table decorations that I was told they go to every USA team party. And up until about 2 years ago, they were at every party. Okay, and I finally just like tossed them. But I would say that board was told to me as like the ritual of the day. Like if that was not updated by a certain time, they're waiting in the lobby for you. And you're at the mercy sometimes of the competition to get the information, and you're trying your best. Sometimes I would get ahead on a day or two, and you could put on there what you could. But the athletes really enjoyed going down. It was time, a little bit of social checking in on what was going. Sometimes they would add their own little note. Um, and I think that visual of knowing what the schedule of the day kind of relieves that anxiety of what's going on, and just that visual reminder of when breakfast, lunch, and dinner is, or how you're getting your, ride to and from the arena, or, practice. And um, but yeah, you had to get it done, as soon as you possibly could. A lot of times I rolled right in off the bus or out of the car, put my bag right underneath, and just started redoing it. Yeah, and then by the last couple of years, we started using email a lot more efficiently, so that was nice too, and being able to use
Yeah,
the
but
board a little bit less.
isn't the question always like Wi-Fi? How good is
Yeah,
the Wi-Fi wherever you are? You just,
absolutely.
we just look at how technology has evolved and
Yeah,
what's happened with what we can do. So tell
absolutely.
me about what do you think is like the best trip that you can remember?
Okay,
And it can
so
either be
that
from
was the hard one, Kyle. That was the hard one. So I've had some amazing ones, but I am going to go with 2012. So that was Paris, France. And part of why I knew it was so great for me is my mom had just passed away, and it put me in this place of Baton I had never been before, ever. I've been to the World Championships. I've seen my sister twirl at the World Championships. I've gone to Canada when USA twirled to, 9/11 kind of tribute, super powerful, gold medalists. Some of you are on here tonight. It's amazing. Okay. I went to France, and I've heard you see Baton in this foreign country, you will not believe it. It was face paint. It was like a stadium of football players. It was just the most powerful thing. And I needed that. I needed that shock in my life. The fact that the gym was just the arena was just full wall to wall until the very last minute when they honored their volunteers. It was just the most powerful time for me. Jen, I certainly remember when you and Sam came in for the big practice, and she said, man, it just got real. And it was already real before she got there, but just saying that, I just remember her hitting her leg. Jenny Hanna, I remember your shoe falling off in the middle of that arena, how you picked yourself up with grace until I did it. Trina Catterson couldn't catch a double walkover to save her life in the practice or rehearsal or something. And I told her, you go in that back gym with like a tent, you catch 100 of those back there, you can catch it out here. And she did. What I remember is Colleen and I drove 15, 20 times to that arena because it was so far and we wanted to make sure we could get there. And finally, on like our 15th or 18th try back, we noticed that the Eiffel Tower was off in the distance. And we had not gone anywhere to like sightsee or do anything. And it was just like, wow, we are here in Paris, France. Let's remind ourselves that there is other things besides just what we're here for. You got to enjoy and open up to the experience. Okay, I also wrote that the French people were very tight on security. And this is a fun story. So as the world team coordinator, I get kind of, privileges to walk in certain parts of the arena if they're really tight. And Jean-Michel told me I could not walk down this one walkway. And that means that I couldn't get to a certain part to do the music tests or put on the music later. And so they said, oh, your badge needs to have blue if you want to walk through here. And so I had to talk to Sandy Weimers. I said, they won't let me walk here during the competition. It was fine today. She's like, don't worry, give me a day or two. So within a day or two, she got me another badge that had the blue stripe that I needed. So I had like 2 badges. And so I just remember saying to Jean-Michel, oh, Jean-Michel, look, colors, both. What color are you today? And then later they used to always tease me, him and Sebastian, oh, here comes the girl that talks too much. So I just loved that kind of banter in the arena. I also, with that, remembered learning one of my most precious lessons. They close on Sunday with grocery stores, and we needed bananas. And we had already gone to the grocery store for a lot of our other produce, but the world team was arriving for the next day. And Colleen and I kind of organized, oh, great, we'll get the bananas on Sunday, not thinking about the grocery store being closed. Plus, we had this beautiful market across the street from our hotel. So I go to the manager at the hotel and I'm like, hey, I need bananas. He goes, Paige, hold on. No problems, only solutions. And I just remember him saying that to me, and I took a breath. I'm like, okay. And he found some Indian market down the street over a couple blocks. Crystal Mignoni and I grabbed our pull luggage, little black suitcases, walked down to the market. We bought all the bananas that were there. It was just lovely. But I literally still use that motto today. There are no problems, only solutions.
It's those little minutes. It's just like, it's so funny how like, who would ever think you have to take suitcases to get produce? And,
No.
just the ridiculous things of like, I remember the world trips as tour coordinator when I carried cash.
Oh yeah.
I carried like thousands of dollars to go pay hotels in cash and the things that we did.
Yeah.
So
I remember first learning that the athletes don't want fizzy water. So you had to say no fizz, had to be the flat water. And with, oh, sorry, Kyle, I just got a little distracted. I'm so excited. With my mom putting me there in 2012, like it literally revived me of like how I can like come back to my own club and want to keep that going. And like our athletes were very strong and we still had like a young team, but they just represented. And we just, the excitement of that arena was something I'll never forget, ever forget. And then I did get to go on a Mediterranean cruise right afterward. And that was very memorable. So
that's going to be a whole nother topic. Your side trips are going to be a whole nother topic.
Those were fun.
So tell me about your connection to these athletes. Paige is so wonderful. And it's part of the magic of being part of the US team, that unless you've done it, unless you've been there, sometimes you don't understand it. So tell me about the athletes, and do you have any favorite moments with athletes or their rituals? And I think that that's one special thing about your position you get to see how like you said, when they come into the arena, but you also know like who needs a hug, who doesn't want a hug, who do you stay away from, who do you encourage? Like, tell me about any highlight moments you might have over the years with athletes.
Yeah. So one I remember with Jonathan Birkin in 2014 when he nailed his short program was him just running off afterward and like being like, that was fun. Like, I want to go again. And I'm like, nobody says that. Like, nobody. And that was like really an exciting kind of moment for him because it was his first time participating in that venue. And there's the stress of it all relieved. And I just remember him in the tunnel afterward, just laying there, just, oh my God, that was so fun. I want to go again. I'm like, nobody ever wants to go again, not for the short program. I mean, maybe you do, but I don't know. It was just really sweet. Um, I certainly remember in 2010 in Norway, which was just such a beautiful, city, when Monica Lee caught her triple with her brother, and like there's still a picture of the audience like totally behind her, and like that's a real fun moment, I think. Um, I love Savannah and Lainey's moment in 2018, and I think that the US had a real opportunity to show twirling. And I recently found out that Savannah's had her 9 millionth view or something of her freestyle on YouTube. So I think we all can take a part in that because we as athletes at one point inspired her. She then became who she was on 2018, that moment, and is able to continue to bring baton twirling to the forefront. Um, I think that there's so many moments. I mean, there's just I mean, like Tiffany, right now that I'm seeing you, like I could just say when you were in Ireland on the team and you just whistle that foot up and do your little, spin twirl. I just, I love that. Like there's just so many times and you would just be like with your feet together all the time, just making sure you had to be what you needed to be. And for team, you guys, like everyone, like Kyler and Michael, like, oh my gosh, like Amanda, you finally got to be on the world team. Like this is just so exciting. And like, Kyler, I can remember like in one of the hotels, you guys had the coolest room. Like was that in Nottingham too? You guys had like one of those coolest rooms with the slants, and just catching your doubles out on the floor whenever we needed to. And yeah,
Well, I
like
think
Jenny,
that
you
that's
had so many beautiful freestyles. Like just the one to your dad when you did your alternate, performance, that just was very memorable. And I got to film it for you, Jenny. Like that was beautiful. Yeah, just lots of great ones.
well, that's
Yeah.
the heart, I think, of like your position is that you get to be everyone's cheerleader. Like you're not sitting there pulling for one kid over the other, you're pulling for everyone. And I think that's also unique for the coaches and the athletes to feel is that when they know that no matter what, you're in their corner and you're going to help make everything better for them. That
Yeah.
that's part of what I love about that position
Yeah.
is that there are several times there's a few times in life as in a competitive sport that you get to be there for everyone. Like I just want everyone
Absolutely.
to be great.
Well, and I felt like in 2006, I had the support of a lot of people that had been on these tours. One, I had never traveled internationally. Two, it's like, do they wear their sweats for the final, award ceremony? Do we come in costume? Lots of questions are being answered. It was blazing hot. We, had a tent out in the back.
Oof.
And like, Jen, I'm glad you sat back down because that freestyle in 2006 was one of my favorites, sway, I think it was, right? And just like I learned so much from like your family on that trip, just like how we tour. And the IC group got moved from the world team group, and I just had to learn how to like be the tour coordinator that year. It was just amazing, and families like yours helped me be that. So I
And that's
appreciate
at the
that.
end of the day on those trips is how everyone does work together. And that's kind of that unspoken camaraderie. Go ahead, speak about your cup. There's
Oh,
you've got
this
your
was from
USA shirt.
Brienne Rowe, also from Nottingham, I think that year. It says life is good.
So many
Yeah.
USA things. But so let's get serious for a moment as far as like tough moments. What are
Okay.
some of the toughest moments on those trips?
Um, I think the toughest moments are when the tears kind of happen or they're frustrated and you want to try to help them get out of the funk or something like that. Um, enforcing what the manual says is usually part of the easier part. But, there are times that we just have to remind everyone, about some appropriate behaviors on social media and things like that. But I don't really think that there's been major tough moments other than trying to find the solution for something that might have happened, and sometimes it could not have been to the fault of our own. So I really couldn't say much more on the tough other than the tears of the athletes because they've worked so hard, and I want the best for them as they want the best for themselves too. So that would be my hardest was the tears.
Yeah. Well, and each job description is so different. Like Colleen's view of what's hard as a tour coordinator, and like me as a tour coordinator, like Lori's testimony, like remember the year when we couldn't get in our rooms until like 10 hours later. And you just feel so responsible and you just, oh, I want to fix it. I want to fix it. And there's nothing you can do at that moment. So go ahead about the trip, Paige. So
Okay.
tell me
Well,
about
I wrote a couple things down. You asked me top 3 memories too,
yeah.
which is kind of different than what I did for my performance moments.
Uh-huh.
So in 2007, Colin Shannon and Curtis Hubble were on the team, and they could eat. They just could eat and eat. And I just remember Colin Shannon asking me, Paige, where's the food bucket? And I'm like, the food bucket? What do you mean? And we had one of those collapsible file like things that were on wheels. It's a collapsible, pull cart. And so that's what he thought was like a bucket of food. And then like it would just always come out. So that just cracked me up. And I remember Curtis Hubble wanted to try to catch his cartwheel on the floor. And his mom was like, Paige will take you to lunch when we get back to California if you catch it. And I'm like, I will? Sure, I will. Like, catch your high toss cartwheel, I'll take you to lunch. And I did pay up. I believe we went to an Olive Garden, or an Applebee's or something. But I loved that just because that was one of my first years on the, kind of scene here. 2008, when we went to Limerick, Colleen and I had the most beautiful corner room kind of thing, and it was adjoining. And we overlooked the Seine River. Is that what that was, you guys? That river? I believe so.
Seine is in Paris, but
oh, sorry, does it go through Ireland? No, I'm just kidding. I don't remember what. If someone could look that up, please let me know. But there was a beautiful river that went near a castle, and we were taken to the wrong gym one day, and we got stuck back out at this other smaller gym, which we had rehearsed at before. And the Japanese were in there practicing. And like right when Sandy Rios and I walked in, somebody said something in Japanese and everyone dropped their batons and they just waited. And then we realized we're at the wrong gym. And so we just practiced out on the back, and it was just beautiful and green and lush, but completely ridiculous. And then the next day we're going to the real gym we're supposed to be, but our bus driver gets lost. So we have to like pull over, and like I go up to like a farmhouse and like totally ask for directions of where we needed to go. And like that was really fun because I remember our parents wanted to go back and like bring, or some of our team members wanted to go back and bring them a little teddy bear. So I ran back up to the River Shannon. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. So then it would be this little teddy bear we brought back up to this little house, this little farmhouse. And then on that trip too, a parent decided to go on like an all-day sightseeing tour and did not tell us. And so their athlete was kind of left unattended for a while, a couple hours, and we got really nervous. So we had actually called the like Limerick police, and we were starting to, try to coordinate some video footage like about the lobby and trying to see if this parent, was lost. But clearly they were sightseeing all day, had a wonderful day, come back through the lobby moments before we're about ready to pull on the full on, APB on them. But that was really a fun trip in terms of driving on the left side of the road, trying to find a basket, Colleen, for like the world team, gift. But just that one was a really fun one. And then I just remember I had to like do a lot of security with like Carissa Wimberly a lot on, she's very popular. And so like a lot of times you couldn't pull her, she needed to go back to the locker room or get away, and you can't pull these athletes away. They're so, popular. Like you just can't, people just need to get away. yeah, so those would be some extra memorable moments of being the coordinator.
It is. Those are so fun. So tell me about, because I think you've really maximized your time abroad and it feels like you've been able to do extensions. So what have you done with your extensions and like who have you done them with and
Ooh, okay.
what you want to do? What were the fun things about being able to go on to other places?
Yeah, well, the one I mentioned already was 2012, and Colleen and I went to through France, through Switzerland, and then into Italy through Milan to Rome. And we went on a 8-day Mediterranean cruise, and it was just the most relaxing. We each had our own separate bungalow on the cruise ship, and just had an amazing time. But I would say going to Athens, Greece, and like seeing Santorini and those white adobe houses, or hotels and stuff on the mountain, those were beautiful. And I did this like Viking jump out into the water, that kind of stuff. With my own athletes, we got to go to Australia, and I climbed the Sydney Harbor Bridge. So, I was glad I wasn't world team coordinator that year, but just having the moments to do that. I stayed in a castle when we went to Ireland, and I remember sheep just all around our, car with Kathy Forsyth. And then we had the little colored doors in Dingle. Nottingham, England, that town was rocking. Okay. Boy, they had these stag parties, like bachelorette parties. And one night there was like all these people that were dressed up like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Oompa Loompas, and just down in the little bar and restaurant area. Like that was always a fun little town. And to host the competition where like Christy Yamaguchi won her medal, that was amazing. Lori Yamaguchi was on my baton team growing up. So I've just always had respect for for her and their family. And gosh, I don't I've just, you guys, I've been blessed to go lots of places.
Well, we're
So
going to open it up a little bit here because we've got lots of people on this call that have been with you in different places. So I'm going to start with
absolutely.
Colleen first, because Colleen's been a longtime tour coordinator and you two had quite the adventures. So Colleen, do you have any special memories with Paige?
I do. Two of them that really stick out in my mind is when we went on that Mediterranean cruise and we had to get there. We had to get to Rome and we had to take an overnight train. OMG. That was horrendous. It was a rickety old train. And Paige can tell stories much better than myself, but the conductor of the train knocked on our door in the middle of the night. It was so hot. It was so hot. There was no windows, nothing. The conductor knocked on the train on our door in the middle of the night and said, "We have another passenger coming into your room." Oh my God. No, that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. So that was it was just hilarious. It was a crazy trip. The next one and final one I want to talk about was Australia. Back at the beginning, I always felt that I had to carry everything with me. All the athletes and everybody on tours always got fan packs. That was my thing. They got a great fan pack. Well, in the beginning years, I would carry them with me over to the country we were going to. So Australia, we had well over 275 people. So I was carrying backpacks for 275 people and I had all this luggage. Well, after the championships were over, Paige and I went to an island, Tulum, I think it was
Tangalooma.
Tangalooma, that was it. It kind of was like, what was the name of that show, Paige?
Yeah, you guys, they filmed Fantasy Island there, as well as the most recent one was Scooby-Doo.
Yes. So Paige and I trekked all over Australia. I had at least a minimum of 8 pieces of luggage. I am not kidding you guys. Yeah. They saw us coming and the porters ran. Yeah. I mean, it was just because I had to have it because I didn't want it to get lost, right? That was just hilarious, trucking all over.
And the best part about that is when we pulled up, you get put on a small boat to be taken over to the island. And the people were like, what's all this? And we're like, well, we couldn't leave it at the airport. They wouldn't let us put it in a locker. Like we tried to put it in a locker. And then we had to bring all this over. And then they put you on the little golf cart. And so like all of our luggage goes on this like golf cart. So then we go off in another golf cart. The luggage goes one way. By the time we get to our room, it's now stacked in front of our room. Okay, so we can't even get to the door yet. We have to move it to like, oh God, it was the hilarious. It's like, what's all this? And we're like,
That was great. And then I think one more thing, just one more was at Nottingham, and some of us, Jackie and Sherry, you and I, and one of Jackie's friends rented a long boat, narrow boat. And we went through the canals up to Wales. That was a great trip. That was a great trip. So great time.
Sometimes it feels like it's an equal balance between amazing and I can't believe I didn't die.
That's true.
The train, absolutely.
That would be Hamilton, Canada, getting back to the airport.
In the limo.
Sherry,
With
you're
the bordages.
story. So,
Oh my God.
oh
Yeah.
Sherry, what do you have to share about you and Paige?
Oh my gosh. Well, most of them entail Paige and Colleen. A lot of times. Where were we when we went? We went to Heidelberg after.
Yes.
We stayed in a castle. Somebody that Paige knew that she had taught.
Didn't have the castle. They had an apartment in the town
Right
of
across.
Heidelberg.
Across from the castle.
It was
Yeah.
very nice though. It was beautiful. And then we ran into Wendy Cruikshank from Canada.
Yeah.
And we're just eating outside, and then I hear someone say, is that Sherry Carter? That sounds like Sherry Carter. And then I say to Paige, is that Wendy Cruikshank? And then we all, like, what are you doing here? And so it was after they'd come to stay for a few days. And so we hooked up, and one of the most memorable time was when we did the, what are those things called?
Segways.
Oh, the segways. Yes.
Oh my God.
And so we had to practice, right? And of course, you know me, I want to be the demo. And I go, oh yeah, and know me, I'm not listening. And so I immediately do what he says not to do, is I grab it with one hand and it spins around and hits me, takes me out. And like, I'm grabbing my knee, which 12, I had that total knee replacement, which was, I go, no, it's the good knee that got it, which is good. And I go, oh no, I'm going to do this right. So then I did it. Then we're just going to town. And like, literally, then we start to take off, and right away, Wendy Cruikshank.
Yeah, she looked like a cartoon character. She was just so.
Oh yeah. But the first time she crashes into a car, and the scooter it's a parked car. So the guy goes, it's okay. Come on. Like, really? You're just going to hit and run and leave. And so off we go. Our next stop was before we go to this big hill. And so we're to gather. And so you kind of hover around. Well, she hovered around and hit this German guy from behind. He goes like 8 feet in the air, lands flat on his back. He is taken away. He's gone. So we him. Then we go and we start getting pretty good. We go through this forest area. And now
By the time you hit cars and people, you were well rehearsed.
oh yeah.
Oh,
No, but poor Wendy. I mean, she was banged up. And so then so that's 2 crashes. So now we're at this forest area and we're starting to come down. He says, now be careful. You have to go single file because it's narrow path. And I mean, it's a drop off. I mean, 30, 50 feet. And I'm going, and all of a sudden, here comes Wendy. And she looked like Sonic the Hedgehog, and her cheeks sort of like this. And I go, sit down, like you have to pull back, sit down. She goes, I am. And she just comes flying past. And like, I mean, on the edge. I go, oh my God, she's going to go right off. And then there's a guy, he goes, I'll catch her. and he's one of them, and he spins around, and like he goes, I didn't get her. And someone else goes after her and finally get her to stop. But that was the scariest moment. And she said after she went home, she was in the hospital like a week or two to recover from that.
Oh my gosh. See, it's a fine line between fun and death.
Well, and as you were saying that story, Sherry, people were commenting in the chat that they remember when our bus driver did a hit and run on a motorcycle as well in 2006. And that's when I started my accent in Italy. And his name was Tonino. Tonino, you just hit the motorcycle, and it had a windshield that cracked, and like he's like, oh no, it's fine. And I'm like, at least go lean it up against the tree. And so I made him stop and go lean up the motorcycle against the tree. But I appreciate the shout out there, Michael, with the accent, and Jenny reminding me of the hit of the motorcycle.
So yes. Jen Marcus, as a longtime team member, what did you count on with Paige?
A lot. She was like, I don't know, Mama Bear. She was like our support system and like what we needed. And that reliable figure that we knew we could trust and would have whatever we needed. I felt like I had the privilege of being on the world team before you took over, Paige, as the world coordinator, and what Paige evolved the position as was just like finding exactly what we needed as athletes and making the experience really comfortable. And really, you were the one that created the whole bringing food and creating a food station in the locker room. And I know it sounds so silly bringing up food, but it's so critical when you're in foreign countries, and getting, having proper nutrition while you're competing and in the arena for so long. There were, prior to Paige, I remember worlds where we would just have to go to the concession stand on our own and eat whatever they gave you, which, in some countries it wasn't what we were used to or comfortable eating. And so you just thought it would be a great idea and started asking everyone what they needed to perform at their best. And, year after year, we could rely on like having proper nutrition because of you. And so I really admire that you didn't just come into the role and just do what had always been done. You really evolved it into thinking of what was best for the athletes. So it was that's one of my not favorite things about you, because obviously all of the emotional connection and the support was more important than food, but it was such a wonderful change to that position to have that support when we were, and then even with the food, they used to provide us with dinners, and that wasn't always what we were comfortable eating. So you made, options of, here's, would you rather the money or the lunch option? And then we could have the money to go buy whatever we needed. So I just felt like I could perform at my best health-wise and emotionally support-wise because Paige was there to help us out however we needed.
Well, Jen, thank you, because I know that a lot of those decisions on whether it was lunch or money weren't always mine. I just happened to be the one who passed it out. But I had a great team, of people that, as we were, getting more to the modern ages of things, but Jen, I've loved watching your journey. Some people on the line don't know that I've known Jen since she was probably 4 or 5, 6 years old, and she would come to this Penny Janowski's camp in Florida, where I would go teach with my mom in the summer. And Jen would take my dance twirl class, and then her high school and her sister's high school would come and do the dance team. And Lori, you're always a chaperone, so that's how I got to know you a little bit better. But I remember when you were here in Oakland for nationals, and I think that might have been one of the first times you were on the world team or something, or it was the early 90s. I don't remember it all, but I just remember seeing you twirl and just your excitement of something that happened. And I'm like, that kid's going places. And then just watching you get onto the Cirque du Soleil, stage, I got to see that and continue to watch your journey becoming a mom and watching the next team of the Marcuses come about. So looking forward to it.
So that's a great segue. So Lori, as a coach with the team, how has Paige been valuable to the coaches?
Well, I mean, Paige did so many things to help everybody, but as far as the coaches were concerned, she kind of kept us all organized and together, and you know, giving us the information that we needed throughout the day, where we had to be, when we had to be there, what to expect, what to do for our athletes to make sure that they were prepared. And she was, she is a really good communicator with her little book. And there was anything that you needed to find out, any questions that you had about anything, she got you the answer. So, that of course was the most important thing, was the fact that you could always depend on her to, as she said, there were no problems, there were only solutions. And she always had a solution.
And that's what, it's just the wonderful balance, like I said, between communication and fun. And I can see Paige get down to business. But Michael, you've had the same thing. You've been able to see Paige in a bunch of different areas. How do you see her value to these US team kids, for you, either as a former world team competitor or as a coach?
Yeah. Well, quite simply, she's relatable. She can, from person to person, every athlete on the team, be able to switch gears and be super hyped or a little bit sad and help you recover or get ready for the next thing, or always helping you kind of find the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that's one of Paige's gifts, that she can help sprinkle over the world team. And I think, kind of like Jen said, with her role as world team coordinator, she owned it. She said this, she got that title, it was hers, and she just did everything from her years of feedback from all the athletes. And, I know Paige always got that was another role that, okay, you asked me how I got to see her. As I transitioned out of athletes and got to be more of a technical advisory group person, volunteering and kind of just helping support Paige in the world team, she was able to take all kinds of feedback and then come up with some of these things. One of the things that she was able to do by just learning her team, there was a water bottle shortage, or we had to because there was not enough, and it was super, super expensive, and we realized they're worth so much money. Well, she's like, let me look at these competitive kids. I'm going to make a contest and see who can collect the most. And by golly, we had enough water bottles to pay for, I can't think of the numbers, but I bet you Paige can.
Yeah. So Michael, that was definitely Bergen, Norway. The water was so expensive, and we just couldn't afford it. But one way we could kick ourselves back is if we recycled all of our water bottles. And then when we went to IKEA, Colleen and I found this huge big bag that I wrote all your names on, and we tally marked it. And then we would go to the grocery store at night with all the bottles and get our kickback money, and then be able to buy more groceries. But then it became so competitive in the arena that people were collecting all the recyclables in the arena and bringing them into the room. And I was like, okay, you guys were good. But yeah, that was how competitive. You're right, Michael.
Yeah. And the little things I got to really start to miss once I had transitioned out of the athlete and was kind of watching from the outside of some of those the world team athlete parties, that she would have the most creative games. I can remember being wrapped up in toilet paper as we did some connective, game. I can't think of exactly why we were wrapped up in toilet paper, Paige, but things like that. And Tyler got to experience that too, and I got to see it through his experience. And it's definitely
so fun to hear. So Tiffany, you were a first time last time. So when you first came on the US team, that was your real first experience with WBTF. Was there a sense of surprise in how the US team coordinator functioned, or how did that whole position affect you?
Well, for me, she came off as almost like Mary Poppins. Whatever you needed. It's interesting how everyone's talking about the food bag of the food. I had been on other world experiences where we didn't have a team coordinator, and you were kind of like, okay, you're going to be at the arena for your music test at this time and you're competing. Good luck. We'll see you there. And this was a completely different. I actually remember that I missed my flights, and I remember watching my plane. I was supposed to be flying to Ireland, and being able to like email Paige and be like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to be delayed in Paris now for, I think it was like 12 hours. And I had to make the next flight. And I just remember, all the things that you worry about, that she just had your back. She figured out who was picking me up from the airport. We stopped at McDonald's, got me to the hotel. And then at the practice, I just remember the suitcase and whatever anyone asked for, she had. If it was from like flavor packets for your water bottle or a specific chewy granola bar, but it wasn't like the s'mores. It had to be, she had everything that every athlete needed. And it was just wonderful. And for me, I had not been on a WBTF or the world team. And so she, just from even after the day after trials, I think we ate at a Mexican restaurant, and how she sat us down and introduced everybody and had like the ice breaking games. And immediately you felt like you were part of this really intimate, fun group in a party, and that, we were Team USA and we're supporting everybody. It was wonderful.
Well, it's so fun to kind of be an observer and to watch it from different ways, whether I've watched it as a coach or I've watched it as a team, as a technical person. So Jenny, that's my segue to you, because I've watched your relationship with Paige, and I love watching how that has developed over the years, and the sense of what you count on from Paige and what you need. So tell me about the role of team coordinator and why Paige in that specific role has been a gift to you.
I'm glad you asked me, because that's what I wanted to say. Paige, I appreciate you so much, because so often my regular coach is in an official position when I get to the, really high level international events, and I don't really have anyone that knows me really well with me. And so Paige has always been like another coach for me, and I know she'll come help me, and she'll watch stuff, and I really appreciate that. And always know also you're just so supportive. I don't feel like I step out there by myself, because I know you're right there with me coming around the curtain. So that was the thing I really appreciate.
And Jenny, I've appreciated all of our like intimate times we've had with your chalk bag, with your towel,
the rosin, yeah.
with your
Oh, yeah,
7 rosin. Yeah, I mean, I just love watching your ritual and letting you go through it so you feel like you're ready to go on the floor. And I just pick it all up and meet you on the other side, and it's been fun watching you, and I completely admire that you still have such a passion and you continue to strive to be excellent. It's just amazing.
Well, I think what's fun to watch as an observer is, especially with an athlete, the eye contact. And that moment of eye contact right before someone takes the floor can make all of the difference in the world. And when an athlete looks at you and they just need something, and they're not asking for it, but their eyes are. And so the ability to be that person that lets them know that they're okay. You got this. Let's go. So Amanda, this is perfect for you, because your first time was 2018. And so what did you find in that team coordinator position that was special? And whether it was the position itself or what Paige brought to it?
Yeah, of course. I know one thing specifically, the journey up to trials, everyone's like, if you make the team, you're going to love Paige. It was always just like, Paige is the one you're going to be up, like, it's going to be amazing. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I've had instances where I've been able to like talk and be able to interact with Paige so much on like an individual level. But when you have a whole team of people saying, no, you don't understand, it's a whole nother ball game. And then getting to that point and they're like, it's completely true. It's intimidating when you walk onto the floor with like Savannah Miller or Trina Catterson, and you're like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And Paige is like, you finally made it. You're going to be great. Just catch the baton. It's going to be fine. And I remember us just coming off the floor and being like, Paige, like, what did you think? Like, did you think it like was okay? Especially during our preliminary round, like, that was terrifying in the slightest. And I was like, I really hope it didn't show on my face, like things like that. And I know personally, just like having someone that was constantly always just like, you're going to be fine. Like, you've prepared enough. You've gone to many, many, many practices. Like, you've drilled these tricks and these exchanges. I mean, having a team behind you, but then having someone that watched from the outside and the progression from the very beginning is just a whole nother aspect that's can't even put into words.
Amanda, that is so sweet. Because Amanda, I have admired your dancing and not just your twirling, but I've admired your dancing for a long, long time. And I can remember during one of the practices, I said to you, when you come to the front there, that's your time too. Long neck, show your dance, blah, blah, blah. And you did it like that every time since I asked you to do it like that. And that's really not always my place, as the team coordinator. I just saw you could be a little bit more in that moment.
Yeah.
And I remember how scared your team was going before you went on the floor that day for the preliminary round. And I did tell you, enough, we've got this. You're going on and you're catching your stuff. Let's get this done.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Just all of us were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, guess what? Time's up. You're on. Let's do this. That's what it is. I'll grab your towels and bring it to the other side. Good luck.
Our many towels.
That's like my favorite part of being this position is I get to watch something I love and kids and athletes that have now grown up. And you guys have spent hours and hours training, hours.
Isn't it the ownership of the programs too, Paige? Like when you watch them so much and now, 15 years later, you hear a piece of music and you see that program. Like you know that program. And didn't you in team routines have a specific person you always look at a certain moment in the team routine? Absolutely. So Kyler, I want to come to you because I have a special soft spot for the men's division. So tell me about Paige and the men. And
so I was on the world team once in 2014, and I would say the most important thing I can say about Paige would be that she made me feel a part of the team. And I was so overwhelmed. I hadn't been twirling for long. I felt out of my league. There were people contending for medals. There were people doing, just crazy things. And I never once felt less than or not included or not a part of it. She always made me feel like special. She was always there, always inclusive, and she just makes you feel so good. And I remember her having us like set goals for the World Championships. And my goal was I really wanted to beat somebody. There were 20 men competing, and I really wanted to beat somebody. That was my goal. I was working hard. That was going to make me feel really good. And I did. And I remember at that, like the end ceremony, her Paige just saying a couple words about me and how proud she was of me for doing that and setting my goal and making it. And she was crying, and then I started crying, and like I just have such amazing memories from that trip, from her being there for me, and she was just so supportive.
Well, Kyler, it's been a pleasure watching your journey too, really, and just watching you even most recently in France. That was beautiful. And you always had such a supportive mom too, that always helped us with our team bag and keeping our medical stuff up. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your family. It's been lovely.
Well, tonight, it was going to be like a holiday party with Paige, but what I wanted to be able to do was highlight the U.S. team coordinator position because I think it's such a special position. And I think you have done just such an amazing job at it that I kind of wanted to turn it into like this great big thank you to Paige. Because, when people volunteer for an organization, there certainly people tell you thank you in the moment, but I don't know that all of the discussion tonight about how you've owned this position and how it's evolved, I think it's important to hear that. And I think it's important for people to know that because it's just so much more than showing up at the World Championships and getting kids on the floor. It's everything that leads to it. Jen Marcus, you just contributed something else in here in the chat. And I'd love for you to share because not everyone will be able to see that chat.
That's so sweet, you guys.
Okay. This is my all-time favorite memory of Paige and something I was so grateful for, which will sound so silly to so many people. But even before she was world team coordinator, she always gave back to the organization and helped. And in, I believe it was 1999, the World Championships was in Florida, actually, and I was on the world team. And I had a huge crush on Gregory Thanet and Sebastian from France, two male twirlers. And I had like a shrine in our locker room, and Paige was helping with costume check and music testing.
Floor monitor.
Check.
Yeah.
What?
I was floor monitor.
She was floor monitor. So with costume check prior to the competition, just for everyone that doesn't know that might watch this later, you have to get your costume approved, and you take a photograph so that people can, they can assure from the costume check to competition, you haven't changed anything. And so I really wanted a picture of these two French guys. And so Paige, I don't want to get you in trouble. This is almost 20 years ago, so I think we're fine. But she took a picture of, I think at the time they were Polaroids. Not that it was like so long ago, but it was a Polaroid picture.
They were Polaroids.
And she told Gregory that it didn't work. So that she needed to take another photo of him. And so she took another one, used it with the application, and then gave me the second photo of both Gregory and Sebastian. And then I was able to pin them up on my wall in the dressing room and like had a shrine around it. And, I was just like totally fangirling. But like, she like jeopardized her job for me. So like, I'll be forever your volunteer unpaid position for me. So I will be forever, indebted to you for hooking me up with those two photos.
Whatever motivates you, what,
Absolutely.
anything for the athletes.
100%. There wasn't anything I couldn't do for these kids.
So it just goes to show she's been helping with the organization, with USTA, and with the world team, like way before she was ever world coordinator. And so it's like this has always been the perfect position for you, I think, Paige. So I hope you continue to be in it for a long time.
I truly enjoy it. And I am honored that all of you spent an hour of your time tonight, you guys, during the holidays. And I hope everyone's safe and happy and living their best COVID life that we can.
Paige, that's when I met you. It's when you were the floor monitor. That's when I first met you. Actually, I hadn't, and I remember you gave me
and you did your beautiful Irish number. Yeah, you did your beautiful Irish number.
Well, Paige, so let's finish up tonight with what in this position, obviously you're tied to it from an emotional standpoint, and what gives you the most pride about owning this position and all you have done?
Okay, so I really feel when I'm in my position, I'm 110 for the athlete and the coach, not about me. I can live my own life outside of these 7 or 8, 10 days. It's all about what they need. And they've worked so hard to get to this point that all they need to do is focus. So I really take pride in that, making sure that the locker room's stocked, that the bobby pin is where they need it in their hair while they're trying to, get their final touches. Whatever is needed to inspire that athlete, I'm going to just allow it. And a funny quick story was like, when we were in Montmartre in France, we were trying to get to the, area, but it was totally trafficky and we were starving. And I just hopped out of the bus and went to the bakery and got a whole bunch of loaves of bread and some fruit cups. And as I hopped back on the bus, we're just divvying it out. Like, those kids needed to rest and eat and go to Montmartre. We didn't have time for not that. So I just do whatever is needed at the time. And they've raised the funds to do it. So it's how can we use our monies efficiently for the best performances? And our goal is to reclaim gold. And I want to help be part of that process. So,
well, I think you do all the time, and just your level of being so conscientious for the organization and for the athlete is just a wonderful balance of that. So we get to see Colleen here. We haven't seen her for a while. So Colleen, do you have any little last contributions for your friend Paige?
Oh my goodness. Just the memories. You can't take away memories. You cannot take away memories. And every day there's something that happens that I think of Paige, because we have been all around the world together. And I couldn't ask for a better travel partner than Paige.
Me too. She was the planner and I just provided the fun during the day.
Sounds like the perfect fit.
It was, you guys.
I just want to thank everyone for coming on tonight and wish you all a Merry Christmas. And there's so many wonderful memories to talk about. And I think during this time when we've missed so much, I feel how full my heart is to just be able to relive this and to know it'll come back. it'll come back. And for us to remember this is important because it hasn't gone away. It's just paused for now. So I think for us to be able to talk about it and to be able to have time together just makes it that much more valuable. So Paige, thank you for everything
Thank
you've
you
done.
for having me, you guys.
And thank
Love
you
it.
for being on this Twirl Talk, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday season and hoping the vaccine makes it your way soon. And keep practicing because we're going to get there. We're going to get more of this happening. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Thank
Merry
you,
Christmas,
Paige.
everybody.
Merry
Christmas.
holidays.
Nice to see you, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye-bye.